Neonicotinoid versus Male Honeybees by Demi Harrington. Introduction and background. Neonicotinoid pesticides. Neonicotinoids are a group of pesticides used to kill bugs that harm crops. Farmers use bug-killing chemicals that are called systemic insecticides to protect their crops. These chemicals get absorbed into the whole plant, even the flower and nectar. When bees visit these plants, they take in the chemicals too. This can mess with the bees' ability to find their way, gather food, fight off sickness, which puts their health at risk. Below is a link that takes you to where I got this background research from, and it's also a whole page about neonicotinoid pesticides and the effects of it. My question was, how do neonicotinoids affect the survival, behavior, and reproduction of male honeybees? I found that this was an interesting question because this was something that I've kind of always wondered, but I've never done any research over. This is the effects. In a recent article that I read, it stated that the data they collected showed that neonicotinoids reduced honeybee drone survival by 51%, increasing drifting behavior to non-maternal colonies by 100%, delayed flight activities by 3 days, and reduced the number of living sperm by 28%. Those numbers are absolutely crazy. Below is the data that they found over this research that I used, and then the link to it. That was a very helpful website for me when doing some research. Here's a content slide. So it says, this graph shows how long drones stayed alive when exposed to neonicotinoid pesticides compared to bees that weren't exposed. The bees that came into contact with the pesticide didn't live as long, and the difference between the two groups were significant. So below is a graph, and it shows the difference between the two. I also listed the link below to where I got the graph from and this information from. So drifting. Little did I know, but drifting is also affected on the drone. In an article that I read, it stated that the drones exposed to pesticides were more likely to get lost and end up in the wrong hive. This just goes to show us that when neonicotinoid is involved, it has a serious effect on male honeybees. Here's a graph that just kind of shows that data, and then below is the link to the graph. This graph also came off of the same graph as the one above, or the other, but this graph is from the same website as the slide above. Sorry. My conclusion. So overall, neonicotinoids are obviously bad for male honeybees. It affects their way of living, their survival, their ability to reproduce. After all of my research, I can clearly see that the males do not live as long, nor do they regularly produce healthy sperm. I talked about the sperm count being 25% in these slides prior. Neonicotinoids also affect their behavior. When in effect, it causes them to drift and take longer to get going and flying. I also spoke about them drifting in some of the slides prior also. The first link is where I got the information for my conclusion above, and the second link is just a picture, is the link to the picture. I just wanted to include a picture that shows that the bee going to the neonicotinoid, which is in the flower. My significance slide. To me, it's clear that neonicotinoids can severely have a negative impact on male honeybees. I believe that if bees keep being exposed, the male honeybee population will have a drastic decrease in number over time as the following are affected. Reproduction. As we spoke about earlier, it is 25% of the sperm count. They've had problems in reproduction of the male honeybees when the neonicotinoid is present. Survival rate. I think that's just a pretty clear one to throw in there. Their survival rate is, I feel like, going to decrease over time. And behavioral issues, as we spoke about a little prior to this slide, their behavior, they go when the neonicotinoid is present, they take longer to get going when flying. They also have ended up in other hives, and their flying rate is just not as fast. And kind of their sense of direction is thrown off a little bit to what I can see. References used. So I listed all the references under each slide, but I also wanted to include this slide in there. This is all the references that I used. I found the second one to be most helpful to me, but I also wanted to include the other ones, but they are also on each individual slide. I had a really good time doing this presentation. I learned a lot that I did not know prior to, and I'm thankful that I got this opportunity to do this. Thank you, Demi Harrington.